Have you heard about or even tried using Pinterest idea pins? Now, you've probably heard about regular Pinterest pins and you've probably been creating some for your business. But have you tried out Pinterest idea pins? Idea pins are fairly new when it comes to Pinterest and they're really taking off. And I find that whenever I create an idea pin, the views that I'm getting on there are just huge compared to a regular pin. They're really taking off and they're a great opportunity. However, a lot of advice out there on creating idea pins is geared towards the DIY world, showing, those step-by-step things, creating something. It's for crafters and bloggers and makeup artists, things like that, where they're showing you a tutorial or a DIY of how to do something. But if you're a service-based business or a coach or an online teacher or doing something where you want to be sharing your knowledge or your products or your services rather than sharing DIYs, then you might not be sure how you can utilize these Pinterest idea pins. And so that's what I want to show you in today's video. I'm Tabitha and I'm a brand design educator and I love Pinterest. I joined back when it was invite only, I think it was in 2010, something like that. And you had to get invited to be able to get on there, and I've just long loved Pinterest. It's a really fun platform and it's very visual. So being a visual person and loving graphics and visual imagery, things like that, it's a platform that I just absolutely love. And it can be really effective for your business too. Now, if you've already been using Pinterest pins for your business, you've already seen how it can be really great for driving traffic. But these idea pins are a little bit different. So when it comes to these idea pins, you can't actually put a hyperlink in it. So it's not like a regular pin where you create a pin and you just want to create that curiosity, get someone to click through and go to your website. Instead, the idea pin really is the content. So they're trying to keep people on the platform. But this doesn't mean that you can't lead people to your other things still, and it can still lead to traffic in other ways. But you've more got to focus on creating some really good content, and then people will go to your profile to find out more about you. You can put a link in notes, but it's not going to be hyperlinked. So people would have to copy and paste it if they want to do that. But the main focus of these idea pins is just growing your audience on Pinterest, getting people interested about what you do. And so then they'll want to go check out your profile and most likely go to your website from there. So what are these idea pins? So as I said, unlike a regular pin, they're not just an advertisement for going somewhere else. They're more an actual piece of content. And they're very similar to Instagram stories in that they're that same dimensions, the 1080 by 1920 pixels. It's that phone screen size, so it's exactly the same as if you're creating Instagram story graphics, that same size. And then it's similar to a story too in that you're trying to tell a story. So you've got several different slides that can all be parts of a story. So it can be very similar to Instagram carousel posts, where you can have your first title slide, then you've got other slides that have more information, and you're not wanting to overwhelm people with too much information because the slide's going to go quickly, but you're just trying to create some key points, give people a little bit of value and get them curious more about your business and what you have to offer. Now, these idea pins are quite dynamic too, in that you don't just have to create graphics, but you've got plenty of different options in how you create these things. There's so many different things you can do with it. So you can add video, you can add animation. If you create them on your phone, they also have the option to add stickers, a bit like how you can add stickers to stories on Instagram. They also have options to make things shoppable. So if you're doing affiliate marketing, things like that, you can add shoppable tags, things like that. So there's quite a lot you can do with it. You can even add music or voiceovers. So you can really get interactive with it and create really dynamic and interesting things. And when it comes to creating idea pins for business, what I find is it's really a great tool for repurposing content you've already got. So if you've got blog posts, videos, Instagram captions, carousel posts you've already created, reels, TikToks, any kind of content that you've already got, that you've already created, you can repurpose them into these idea pins. So you don't have to feel like you're having to start from scratch and, oh, I've got to create this other piece of content, these idea pins. It's just another way you can repurpose content you've already got to grow your following, get more people to notice your brand, notice your business, and then, they get curious about what you've got to offer, what you do, and they're going to want to follow you, and they're going to want to then click through to your website, giving you more traffic. So what do you actually need to know about creating these idea pins? So there's a few things that I figured out and noticed as I went along, experimented, tried a few few different things out with them. So I want to let you know some of those things so that you're not having to just experiment, try and figure it out, but you're aware of those important things before you start so that you can more effectively just get in and start creating. So first of all, when it comes to creating an idea pin, you have two different options. First of all, you can create it completely in another place. So you can create it on Canva, you can create it in Photoshop, Illustrator, you could create it on Keynote, whatever you feel comfortable using, and depending on what you're actually trying to achieve and make. You can create it on some sort of software and then you can upload it into Pinterest, a bit like how you'd make a pin and then you'd upload it to Pinterest. Or you have the option of creating it within Pinterest itself. So this is most effective when you do it on your phone because they've got a few extra elements that you can add to it. And it's very similar to Instagram stories in that you can be uploading some images or some video, and then you can start overlaying stickers and text and music and sound and all sorts of other things to it to make it interesting and to, you know, really create an interesting story basically. So what I'd recommend is first thinking about what you're actually trying to create. So if you're repurposing content, what's best to do is then create it on whatever platform's easiest to create it and then upload it to Pinterest. However, if you want to do something on the fly, so maybe you're in the middle of creating something and you're like, oh, this might be a good opportunity to make a Pinterest idea pin and I could show off what I'm doing right now, or I could, you know, create a quick tutorial or behind the scenes of what I'm doing, then it might actually be the best thing to do is create it on your phone with the Pinterest app and, you know, just take shots, take videos as you go. Then, you know, once you've finished creating that media, then you can start adding the text overlays, voiceovers, music, whatever you want to add to it, and you can make something really fun on the fly. So as I said, you can add video or animation. So if you're going to be creating them somewhere else and uploading them, make sure that you make them MP4s for that. Otherwise, if you're just creating a still graphic, they can be JPEGs or PNGs. Now, something that I learned as I was going along and experimenting is that the limit is 60 seconds. So this means the whole entire idea pin has to be no more than 60 seconds. Each slide can vary in length as long as the final overall thing is no more than 60 seconds. So if you're creating something and you notice that it ends up being a bit longer than that, then you're probably going to want to cut down some of the slides, maybe shorten a few slides or shorten the whole thing as a whole, whatever you need to do to make sure it stays under that. So also think people are only going to be watching this for 1 minute or less, so you don't want to overload it with content either. You want to make sure it's something that someone can consume and, you know, get interested in within just 1 minute. So it's not like a blog post or, you know, a podcast. You don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. Think about what's going to be of value that you can create within just under a minute. That being said, they allow you to create up to 20 slides. So you've just got to create whatever's going to suit you as long as it's going to stay under that 1 minute. You know, you can go all the way up to 20 slides and just keep the whole thing under a minute, or you can use a lot less. I find most people are using anywhere between 3 to 10 slides is generally what most people are using, what seems to work best. I think Pinterest themselves are recommending that you at least create 3 to 4 slides. So I have noticed a lot of people that will just put up 1 slide and make that as an idea pin. And while that can be effective for just repurposing something like a reel or a TikTok, just putting that 1 slide up with that video, what Pinterest prefers is you actually, you know, using what they've created and having several different slides. Now, as I mentioned before, you can use sound. So if you're creating the pin within the Pinterest app on your phone, they actually have music options and also voiceover recording. So you can add either your voice or some music within the app there. Or of course, if you create it somewhere else, you can add any kind of audio that you want. Now, keep in mind that not everyone is going to have the sound turned on. So if you're doing any kind of voiceover or using any kind of sound where people need to know what's being said, make sure you add captions. Now, following on from captions, make sure that your text is fairly short because these slides only go for a few seconds, and so you've got to make sure that people have time to read it. So they can pause it, they can go back, they can read it, but you know, you don't want to be overwhelming with too much text. The shorter you keep it, the better it performs. I have tried out different things over time, and you know, the ones where I've put a lot of text I have found haven't performed as well as the ones where I've got really short amount of text. So the most viral Pinterest idea pin that I've created actually is just like less than a sentence. It's just like a few words per slide, and that's performed the best. Now, if you're uploading a video as your idea pin, you might notice when it uploads that it's just picking a particular frame and it might not be showing exactly what you want people to see first up. So you may want to choose a cover. So when you upload it, it will give you the option to have a cover. You can either add your own cover graphic, or you can just scroll along and pick a particular frame that shows what you want to show. So if you pick a frame that shows everything. So if you've got an animation where things are appearing, pick a frame where everything has already appeared, so that when people scroll through Pinterest, they don't see something that's, half animated, but they can see the whole thing. And so they'll want to, click on it and have a look at it because it's clear what it's about. Now, when you create these idea pins, unlike a regular pin, it's not obvious that there's an area to add a caption. But if you scroll down to the bottom when you're adding your title and tags, you'll see an area that says add list. Now, if you click on that, there was the option to have notes, and that's where you can add a little bit of a caption. So that's the area where you can, be putting some keywords, some additional information. You can even put your link there. Obviously, it's not going to be clickable, but if you still want to add a link or some sort of call to action, that's where you can do it. Now, it's probably important to have some kind of call to action if it's just to say, follow me if you want to learn more, things like that, or some sort of link. So take the opportunity to use that space to, help your pin with things like those keywords and call to action. The last tip is, if you have a well-performing idea pin, is to repurpose that idea pin. So you could remake it, but make it better, or you can also be, making it into a regular pin, making it into a video pin. Don't just make that pin and be like, oh, that went well, but you can repurpose it and use it again and really get the most out of it. So what kind of content can you be sharing as an idea pin? Basically, it's anything that you can be breaking down into steps or into different parts. So think of it a bit like a carousel post on Instagram. You want to break down that information. You want to have that hook, that title post, something that's going to want people to know more. Then you want to be breaking it down into slides. So these slides could be graphics, these slides can be videos or animations. You basically just want some sort of content where you can break down information. It could be things like a DIY, a tutorial, how something works, why something's important. You can even be showing processes, behind the scenes, break down a concept, show how to use a different tool. There's so many different things you can be doing. Some things to consider is, how can you repurpose some content you've already got and create it into an idea pin? And then consider also, what do you offer and what kind of idea pins could you be creating to showcase what you offer. If you offer a service, maybe showing things that you've already made, sharing some testimonials, showing some behind the scenes. If you've got a product, whether that's a physical product or digital product, showing how it's made, showing different ways it can be used, maybe styling it, whatever it is, thinking about different ways you can showcase and then just thinking about what kind of bite-sized value can you put out there that's going to entice people and make them want to know more about your business. Now, rather than me just talking more and more about the things you can do, I want to show you some examples. So this first example is turning an Instagram carousel post into a Pinterest idea pin. So this was a carousel post I had on Instagram that did really well. It went really well on Instagram. I thought, well, if it did well there, let's see how it goes as an idea pin. And this ended up being my most viral idea pin. And I think it was actually my most viral carousel post on Instagram. So clearly this was something that really appealed to people. And it shows, if you've got something that's already going well, think about how you can create it on different platforms in different ways to really get the most out of it. The next example, this one, is repurposing an old TikTok or a reel. So if you've got any TikToks or reels that would be really valuable on Pinterest in an idea pin, usually things where it's you talking or some sort of tutorial, you showing how to do something, those ones are going to go really well as an idea pin. If it's just you dancing around, that might not go quite as well, because you've got to keep in mind people might not have the audio on with Pinterest. You want to be giving more informational stuff, so you can repurpose it in ways that are a bit more interesting. You could just upload the video initially, but then have some extra slides, maybe breaking it down with a bit of text. Or you can, create something like this, where I put it within a phone and made it a bit more of a graphical thing. So making it a little bit more interesting so that it looks really cool on Pinterest. This next one here is an animated idea pin. So you can really have fun with animation. You can use something like Canva or Keynote and just add little animations. It doesn't have to be anything complicated and super fancy. It could just be something that slides in, fades in, something like that, that just adds a little bit more dynamicness to it. So then it turns it into a video. It's not just that static image, but you're creating a little bit of movement to it, and it's a bit more dynamic and interesting. This next example is a full video idea pin. So as I said, you can be using video, and you can be grabbing some B-roll video you've got, any kind of video that you've already got lying around, or even find some stock video that you think is going to be really suitable that could work well for you. And then you can overlay that with text. You can break down your concept that you were going to maybe just put just text slides and instead have video in the background background, and that's going to make your idea pin a lot more interesting. Then we have an example here of showing off a product. So in this one, I've again added a little bit of animation to make it interesting, and I'm just showing the product in different ways it can be used, you know, just trying to show it in interesting ways so it's going to catch people's attention and show what my business has to offer. So if people are interested in that, they're going to want to go to my profile, check me out and learn more about what I have to offer. So some other ideas that I've seen around include creating a slideshow of testimonials. So if you're creating anything where you've got some testimonials you want to show, if you can create a slideshow of that. You could also share behind the scenes. So as I said before, if you could just get out your phone while you're creating something and show behind the scenes of how you're doing that. You can also be repurposing other short form videos, so not just Reels and TikToks, but if you've got a really short IGTV video with captions, things like that, repurpose them as well. It doesn't just have to be, you know, the same Reels and TikToks. There can be any kind of video that you've created that you might be able to repurpose in some way. And finally, if you provide any kind of service, creating slides that showcase that service. So you might want to show off some other client work you've already created, show it off in different ways to really entice people and show this is what I can do. Or you might want to share the process of your service, showing different, you know, elements of what you do and what you're offering. So really think about what you want to be putting out there, what you want to promote, and how you might be able to create some idea pins to do that. It really is such a fun medium, and it's really taking off at the moment, so it's such a great opportunity and something that I really encourage you to try out. Now, if you're feeling stuck on how to get started or thinking, oh, I've got to create all these different things, well, I've actually recently created some Canva templates for Pinterest idea pins. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you check out the link below so you can have a look at that. And I know that Pinterest idea pins are such an opportunity at the moment and something that you can really have a lot of fun with. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you want to learn more about branding and graphic design, then be sure to subscribe to this channel, and I will see you next time.